What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, Joker back again, once again, and today we're talking more Destiny. Of course we are, because why wouldn't we? What we do. And one of the most grueling things about starting Destiny is starting Destiny. And I don't mean that in the I'm a 6-year vet and the game has gone to shit sort of way. I mean booting up a new character and actually starting the game for the first time. For those of you who haven't done it, when you start Destiny 2, and you start a new Guardian, you don't play the Red War. Instead, you start in the Cosmodrome, playing through the very first mission of Destiny 1. I don't really have much to say about this mission, other than the fact that it would have been nice to see new Light Guardians, or new Guardians in general, get their own origin story. Maybe even something as ambitious as, say, 3 origin stories based on the player's race. An Awoken might be revived in the Dreaming City or the Reef, for example. And even if that is a little too ambitious, an origin story that delineates between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 and is unique to Destiny 2 Guardians would have served to give them their own identity. That said, it is what it is, and we're not really here to talk about the content of the first mission, but the new player experience in general, and how that player experience actually affects everyone who's playing Destiny, be it veterans who have been playing for 6 years, or people who just picked up the game. So after you finish the first level, you're given some exposition over some black and white art about the lore and TLDR of the world. Basically, everything was golden in the Golden Age until it wasn't. Gasp! Shock! Horror! Lightning crackle, lightning crackle, lightning crackle. Once the cinematic is done, you load into the tower, and God help you if you have the misfortune of loading into the annex. Your first quest step is to go see Banshee, then to go see Zavala, who prattles on and on and on and on, and then gives you a quest to go do strikes. After speaking to Zavala and getting his quest, you then go speak to each of the vendors, and they will in turn either tell you something or give you a various quest. Once you've spent 10 to 15 minutes, if not more, running around the tower, picking up these various quests, it's now time to look at these various quests and despair. Yeah, that's the new Destiny player experience. And while a new initiate to the Destiny universe can go back and play the past campaign, oh wait, never mind, they will be removed with Beyond Light. So while you'll still be able to play most of Forsaken and Shadowkeep come Beyond Light, if the new player experience doesn't change, it's literally just go around and be introduced to the planets and core activities in the most repugnantly boring way possible. Busy work. There's no point of introduction, no origin story, just busy work, which I guess at least is a very accurate representation of the game in its worst times. But is this really how we want to introduce new players to the game? The most mundane, banal, busy work? No. Now, as a veteran, you might be wondering, how does this pertain to you? Why should you care? Well, because this exact same style of introductory quest line tends to be the first part of each and every expansion as well. And this happens because quite often people don't want to do these boring quest lines, so they jump into the story bits. So Bungie has to double down, either out of laziness or necessity, on these tutorial quest lines. Think back to Forsaken. You're sitting there and you're getting ready to hunt down Aldrin to avenge Cade's death after this really cool Prison of Elders mission, and then the story hits a brick wall because you gotta go do a bunch of busy work in the Tangled Shore for the next couple of hours before you can start hunting down the Barrens. Like I said, it's a narrative brick wall that ruins the pacing of the story being told. Or look back to Shadowkeep. Touted as this return to a nostalgic area for old players, the entirety of the story, with the exception of 3 missions and a strike, is little more than glorified Lost Sector boss hunting and crafting armor by doing what? Glorified bounty grinding. Go to a Lost Sector, go kill a boss, go do public events, go open chests, go kill 800 dregs. This isn't interesting content. At best, it's a drawn out tutorial that doesn't need to exist. At worst, it's padding. So if we give Bungie a good faith interpretation of content creation and don't just assume that they're using these tutorials of locations in each DLC to pad out content, and that they need these tutorials to introduce new players to the mechanics of the game, one must ask, isn't there a better way? As a 6-year veteran of Destiny, I literally have absolutely positively no interest in a story quest that has me running around doing lost sectors, or doing patrols, or opening chests, or doing public events. These are things that I've been doing for years, and I don't need a story quest to tell me that the rewards are shit. With Beyond Light, Bungie is sunsetting the Red War, which served as the original introduction to Destiny 2. But also with Beyond Light, Bungie will be making Destiny 2 more of a platform than a single game for the foreseeable future of the franchise. So it is imperative that the introduction of the game for new players is not only engaging, but serves as an adequate tutorial. Because as it sits, like I've been harping on, Destiny's introduction is nothing more than go do a bunch of busy work real quick so your friends can carry you through the raids. That's all it is. This boils down Destiny to a bunch of loosely defined game systems with no real cohesive experience or context. New Light players literally become that meme where it's like, I don't know who I am, I don't know where I'm from, all I know is I must kill. So now that we understand the issue, how do we fix it? And with sunsetting, can we even fix it? The last part of that question is really the issue at hand, and another glaring flaw with sunsetting. When anything can be taken off the table at any time and vaulted, how do you create anything with any sense of permanence outside of core playlist? And even then, the core playlist really only boil down to what? Strikes, Gambit, and PvP? Even story modes and raid content isn't safe from sunsetting. So what can Bungie do? Well, one thing they could do is more of the same, what they've been doing. Basically take up large portions of any given expansion with filler tutorial padding, which in my opinion is a huge disservice to the bulk of the player base. Granted, they could make this optional content and detach it from the story mode or minimalize the amount of tasks that you have to do. The other option is to create a story-driven campaign for new players. Something that's an hour or two long that narratively takes new players through being a guardian and the importance of what they're doing. And no, not this wall of text bullshit that we keep seeing. I'm talking about an actual Origins campaign. Hell, with the full return of the Cosmodrome, they could just create a campaign or take the campaign from Destiny 1 and have players go all the way up through the Devil's Lair campaign until you fight Sepix Prime. At least that would be something. Yes, sure, it's not horrifically original, but I guess it gets the job done? And it would be far more engaging than an itemized list of tasks that you have to do. Now, some of you might be wondering, what's the entire point of this video? The point is to illustrate a couple of things. Firstly, that there's no solid starting point for new players. When you load up the game for the first time, you want a story, not to be bombarded with busy work. And while you can currently go and replay the Red War, you won't have that option come Beyond Light, and that hasn't really been the new player experience since Shadowkeep. The second point is to show how not having a definitive starting point for new players also hurts the game for old players. It is the most monotonous thing in the world to start a campaign, be it Forsaken or Shadowkeep, and get told once again, for the umpteenth time, to do patrols, to do public events. This really did hurt the pacing of Forsaken's story and was the totality of Shadowkeep. A game needs a definitive starting point. Without one, you might as well just start everybody at max level with everything unlocked and tell them to go play the raids, Gambit, and PvP. However, with the uncertainty of sunsetting and the content retirement that we've seen over the last year, nothing is permanent. Bungie is making things to be cheap and disposable. What Destiny lacks at this moment, looking at the totality of the game, from the start, where you create your character, to the end where you play raids and PvP and trials and strikes, is cohesion and incentive. Why should a new player care about the story and the world and the mechanics and the aesthetic and all the things that Destiny does? That, well, Warframe does, Monster Hunter does, Genshin Impact does. When their first experience with the game isn't a story, it's just a list of busy work. But this can be extrapolated to any aspect of Destiny. Why should PvP players care about getting Legend in the ranked playlist? Or going to the Lighthouse? Why should anybody care about playing Strikes? Or Gambit? From the most basic aspect of jumping into the world to the most advanced aspect of playing the end game, where are the incentives? At the end of the day, this is ultimately an issue where I don't have an answer or a fix. What I can say is sunsetting content, building content to be disposable, or sunsetting weapons only to reintroduce them isn't going to stop the game from stagnating. If anything, it'll expedite its stagnation. And I don't think people want to see Destiny stagnate. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, but only if you did. Subscribe for more. Feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling generous. But above all else, stay frosty.